Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Sunday morning, the 4th of May. I'm going to keep this video fairly brief because it's really just a personal reflection more than anything else. But it's about Bryan Kohberger, specifically his motive and the allegation that Bryan Kohberger committed the murders so that his mentor, Dr. Catherine Ramsland, would think that he's some kind of star student, and that's Bryan Kohberger's motive for committing a quadruple homicide, if indeed it was Bryan Kohberger that committed the murders anyway. So this comes from part 6 of these airmail blog type posts that journalist Howard Bloom has been doing. And this part 6 is the eyes of a killer more than 2 years after the murder of 4 University of Idaho students. Prosecutors are ready to offer a motive. Look, prosecution don't have to offer a motive. They don't have to even mention a motive, let alone prove a motive. But when prosecuting a case, it is actually quite useful to be able to tell a story to the jury of the defendant as being a certain type of person that would commit the crime that they're being tried for. But Howard Bloom has made some, I would say, startling claims in this particular episode here. He says that Bryan, being the protege of Catherine Ramsland, committed the murders because he became obsessed with the serial killers that she wrote about. She's written like over 70 books. And he was in her classes, he will have read some of those books. The claim is that Catherine Ramsland met with the Kohberger family and is supporting the Kohberger family. And she's writing a book about Kohberger with the help of one of Bryan's 2 sisters. Catherine Ramsland has responded. Now, this is second-hand. She's not giving any comment to the press, to anyone in public, but she says that she's going to talk about Kohberger in a memoir that she's going to be writing. This information comes from a co-worker of Ramsland, Dr. Jamie Voner. She appeared on the DT show a day ago. She read out a response from Ramsland, saying that Ramsland is not writing a book with Bryan Kohberger's sister. She never split profits from books with the serial killers that she's wrote about. She will talk about Kohberger in her memoir as being one of her students, but she's certainly not owning Kohberger as some kind of star student. The wider implication of this is what I want to talk about. Some of you will know, certainly not all of you, I taught psychology for over 20 years. And my particular focus was forensic psychology, about crime, victimization, the causes of crime, including the most violent offenders, murderers, rapists, you name it, I talked about it over the years. It wasn't the only area of psychology. Psychology is a very broad field. It's not the only area that I would lecture in, but it's certainly one that was pretty popular. I started as a classroom assistant while I was a PhD student in the back end of 1997. In 2000, I got a full-time job as a lecturer, and I made my way through the ranks, I guess you would say. When I left the profession in 2021, I was a reader, which is a strange English archaic term. Reader of criminological and forensic psychology. That was my actual title. And it basically means a junior professor. Now, I know in America, lecturers are called professors. In the UK, you only get the moniker professor when you've reached the highest echelons of academia. If you just teach, then you're a lecturer or a senior lecturer or an associate lecturer, or depending on what your particular role is. I was on target to become a full professor, but I left before that happened. No, I wasn't fired. No, I wasn't forced out. For anybody who wants to start making strange claims, I don't know. I left of my own free will, of my own volition, for various reasons, including health, but it's not relevant here. So from 1997 until 2021, I've taught thousands, and I literally mean thousands of students. First as part-time classroom assistant, and then between the year 2000 and 2021, in a classroom on my own, basically teaching whatever I wanted to, as long as it fit with the syllabus. We made our own modules, we made our own courses, we could teach pretty much what we wanted to. And I've written over 60 journal articles, book chapters. My whole life was psychology for over 20 years. I've never murdered anyone. I've never had the desire to become a serial killer. And to my knowledge, none of my students have ever become murderers, serial killers. I mean, there might be one who's so good they've never been caught. I guess there could be that. But look, if you think that this is a motive for Kohberger, then why are there not more people who graduate from psychology programs, not just my students, because psychology is one of the most popular fields of study for undergraduates, certainly in the UK. Always oversubscribed. Huge amount of interest in psychology. There's only a very limited amount of jobs, so the majority of people who graduate with psychology degrees do not ever become anything in the career to do with psychology, but I digress. So, look, because psychology is so popular, and forensic psychology within the general field of psychology is one of the most popular, why are there not more people who graduate from psychology programs in the UK, in America, across the world, who become murderers? Because unless you've got that mindset to begin with, psychology as a field of study does not make you a murderer. A murderer it does not make. Now look, I've had a lot of students who basically start degrees to learn about themselves. You know, they want to do me-search rather than research, because maybe they've been a victim in the past. Maybe they've got problems that they feel that learning more about psychology would help them with. And in the main, honestly, learning about psychology as an academic subject, much of it is very dry, very statistical, very numerical, and people who are taking on psychology as a form of me-search generally don't do that well unless they've got a particular penchant for academia. It would be a lot quicker and cheaper to go and get yourself some therapy rather than starting a degree in psychology to learn about yourself. But I've never had, to my knowledge, anyone who has become a killer because of forensic psychology, learning about forensic psychology. Now, look, if somebody was particularly sick and twisted and they become obsessed with serial killers, and because they become obsessed with serial killers, they get to know someone who has written about serial killers, the sickness comes first. The obsession with serial killers and with learning about serial killers comes second. So I think that is an important distinction to make. Really important distinction. So I don't think Dr. Catherine Ramsland or anyone else created the monster that Bryan Kohberger allegedly has become. He was already a budding monster. Did he think that he could become the next BTK or whoever he was idolising? Well, it's happened before. Israel Keyes apparently, allegedly, idolised Ted Bundy. The Oklahoma bomber idolised David Koresh, the Waco thing. But the sickness comes first. The desire to be notorious in that field comes first. The learning how to do it, the learning how to get away with it, comes second. That's just my opinion based on a lot of years and a lot of teaching and a lot of psychology. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Bye, guys.